What do you want? You want to be on camera? Come here. Oh, I have a visitor today. Look. Shane, look at the camera. Oh yeah. Hi everyone, my name is Holly, and in today's video I'm going to be doing my September wrap-up. So I read a total of 6 books this month, which isn't too bad. I think I could have done a lot better. I was very busy this month and I didn't find a whole lot of time to read, but I'm hoping that changes around in October. I am planning to read a lot in October, and you'll see that in my TBR video tomorrow. But today, let's discuss the books I read this month. So the first book I read this month was A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas. Yes, I am so happy I finally finished this trilogy. I pretty much marathoned it and I'm so glad that I did. It was so amazing. The ending of this book left me utterly exhausted. Seriously, I think I was breathing a little harder by the time I finished that last page. Now, I don't want to say anything too spoilery since this is the 3rd book and I know a lot of people haven't read it yet or haven't even started the series yet. My only words to describe this ending is that it was intense. Every single character in this book goes through an amazing transformation and their development is really well written. Feyre, Rhysand, and the Inner Circle are like family to me. I will admit that the beginning was just a tad bit slow for me, but it was still oh so good. I'm really sad to see this trilogy come to an end, but don't you worry, the series isn't over. There will be another book, but it will be centered around a different character, and I believe there is a novella coming out for this story next year. I hope so. And yeah, I can't wait to get my hands on it. So I ended up giving this book a 4.5 out of 5 stars. It was a very good ending to a beautiful story. The next 2 books I read were actually graphic novels, and that was I Hate Fairyland Volume 1 and Volume 2 by Scotty Young. All I have to say is that this is one of the best graphic novels that I have ever read. If you have a very dark sense of humor like I do, and you don't mind a lot of brutal scenes and storytelling, then this book is for you. If you don't mind exploding brains and entrails and okay, this review is getting out of hand, but let's be honest, this graphic novel was out of hand itself. But holy crap, I loved it. This graphic novel follows a little girl named Gertrude, and she is sucked into a hole in the middle of her bedroom one day and is whisked away to Fairyland. She is immediately introduced to Claudia, the Queen of Fairyland, and Claudia tells Gertrude the only way that she can get home is to find the key that unlocks the door that leads her back to her world. Well, come to find out, Gertrude sucks at her quest, and 30 years pass and she does not age physically, but she does age mentally, and she still hasn't found this key, and she just murders everything in her wake. I loved it and I need more of this. Please, Scotty Young, make more of the story. I will love you forever. So I ended up giving both Volume 1 and Volume 2 5 out of 5 stars, and the 3rd volume comes out in October and I cannot wait to read it. So after reading those 3 amazing books, this is where my rating started to go downhill, and I totally blame ACOWAR for this. That book blew my mind and nothing could live up to it this month, so just be aware of my reviews for these next few books. So the next book that I ended up DNFing was Swan Boy by Nikki Sheehan. And yes, I got about 60 pages into this one and I had to put it down. If you watched my September TBR, then you know how excited I was to read this. I don't like contemporary, but I was really excited for this one, and it let me down. So basically this book follows a little boy named Johnny, and his father ends up passing away and he ends up moving to a very small apartment, and the new school that he goes to, he is getting very bullied there. Eventually Johnny ends up running into a swan and is inspired to partake in the local school play of Swan Lake. Doesn't that sound really interesting? No, it wasn't. The author kept switching from third person the past tense, and that confused the heck out of me. At one point I actually had to look up to see if English was the author's first language because the writing style just did not flow correctly. By the way, it was. So yeah, I didn't like this one at all. I didn't rate it on Goodreads, but if I did, I would give it 1 out of 5 stars. So after that, I ended up picking up Depravity Part 1, A Beastly Tale by MJ Hagg. First off, I had no idea what I was getting into when I picked this book up. This is a semi-erotic, yes, I had absolutely no idea, retelling of Beauty and the Beast, and it was very strange and had a lot of problems. The story follows a girl named Benella, and she lives with her father and her 2 sisters in a very small village. Their father is the local schoolmaster, which pays just barely enough to keep them from starving. To supplement this, Benella ends up foraging in a nearby abandoned estate that is kept under a spell and guarded by a fearsome beast. With the actions of her sisters not sharing the money that they make, Benella is forced to keep going to this estate to scavenge for supplies, and because she does this, the beast demands payment in return. Now, this book is very jarring and can be cringy at times. I think the biggest problem for me is that the main character is 16 years old, and she encounters a lot of sexual scenes in this book, including going to a brothel and being taught by the women there how to treat a man, if you get what I'm saying. And the women there touch her inappropriately, and I felt very uncomfortable. Also, her father ends up getting a job at this brothel, and he could care less about the situation that Benella is in. He has no problem with it whatsoever. Again, that made me feel very uncomfortable. But all of that aside, the author's writing was actually very good. The book also ends on a cliffhanger, which makes me want to read book 2, and I don't know how I feel about that, because will book 2 be even worse? I don't know. I might pick it up soon actually because I'm really curious, but I ended up giving this one 2.5 out of 5 stars. Goodness gracious. The next book I ended up picking up this month was a middle grade, and that was Pennyroyal Academy by M.A. Larson. This was for sure a cover buy for me. Just look at this cover. Doesn't it just look like it's going to be full of adventure? It has a castle, it has a dragon. This had a lot of promise. Well, I have some bad news. So this story follows a young girl who has no recollection of who she is. And while mysteriously wandering a dark forest, she ends up running into a young boy named Remington. She finds out Remington wants to become a knight, so they travel to Pennyroyal Academy, which also trains young girls to become princesses to fight witches. Sounds cool, right? I was fooled too. First off, this book was so slow, and it had absolutely no direction except trying really hard to be Harry Potter. And yes, I completely understand that that could have been a good thing. Harry Potter, who doesn't want more Harry Potter? And I'll give you some similarities. Number 1 is that Pennyroyal Academy has a coat of arms, but instead of Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw, Gryffindor, and Slytherin, it has Knight, Princess, Witch, and Dragon. It's literally on the back of the cover. Number 2, there is a head teacher for each house. Number 3, there is a great hall where the cadets, that's right, cadets, not students, go to eat, and there are long tables and also a staff table in front. Number 4, the headmistress has long white hair. Dumbledore, is that you? And number 5, our main character, Evie, is pretty much the female version of Harry Potter. She enters this school knowing absolutely nothing. She doesn't remember anything, and her fellow cadets basically have to explain to her everything that's going on. Just like Harry Potter. The only thing technically different is the plot. It's about princesses who have to fight off witches, not with swords or physical weaponry or strength at all for that matter, but with kindness and courage. Are you kidding? And they have to look pretty while doing it. Instead of training to be strong, they end up sewing dresses. Okay, I guess that's fine, since the witches are never even a threat throughout the whole book. Are you finally wondering why I didn't DNF this book, or basically give it 1 star? Well, I'll explain. I was very intrigued by the main character, and I really wanted to know why. She had lost all recollection of her memory. She had no name. She had no family ties. She didn't know any students or cadets. Sorry, cadets. And the answer in the end was pretty satisfying. So I ended up giving this one a 2 out of 5 stars. So after striking out with 3 books, I decided that I needed a hyped book in my life. So I decided to pick up The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater. This is the first book in the Raven Cycle series, and this is a very loved series in the book community. The story follows a girl named Blue, and she lives with a family of psychic women in a very cramped house, but she does not possess the power herself. She is kind of like a conduit. She increases the power of the psychics around her. Ever since Blue was a little girl, she's been told that if she kisses her true love, she will kill him. On St. Mark's Eve, she is very surprised when she ends up seeing a spirit of a boy named Gansey who's going to die within the coming year. Blue then meets Gansey in person and a couple of his friends, and she gets pulled into their crazy world, which involves hunting for a dead Welsh king. I'm going to be honest here, I found the first 100 pages to be really slow for me, and the plot was a little hard for me to believe. But after that, I started really getting into the story. I noticed that if I sat down and read for a really long setting, that I enjoyed it more than going in short bursts. So I ended up just sitting down and reading like the last 200 pages at once, and I actually enjoyed it a lot more. I really enjoy the characters, especially when they all got together. That's really when the book kicked up for me. This book is really hard to rate because since I didn't enjoy the first 100 pages as much as I thought I would, I'm fighting between 4 and 3.75 out of 5 stars. I ended up giving it a 3.75 on Goodreads though, so yes. And I am very excited to continue on with the series because I'm sure now that I'm settled into the story, I will enjoy it way more. So those are all the books that I read in September. Tell me down below some books that you read in September because I would love to know. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram. I'm at Holly Hearts Books on there, and I've been uploading every single day. I'm quite proud of myself for doing that. Don't forget to subscribe, and until we meet again, happy reading. Hey Cheyenne, you want to say bye? You want to say bye? Huh? I see that tail wagging.